Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall.
105.9 FM.
And AM 630.
WMAL.
7:07 on WMAL. Brian Neiman, Brian Wilson with you. Joe diGenova, our legal experts on the line. We want to get into what's going on in Colorado, obviously, Joe. I would imagine for prosecutors that this is a pretty easy case. I mean, really, is there much to it other than the fact that I guess you could plead guilty by reason of insanity? What do you think on that?
Well, if he does plead guilty by reason, not guilty by reason of insanity, which I think he will, it becomes a nightmare for the prosecution because Colorado has old law. They have pre-John Hinckley law. And that means that if the defense raises any evidence of insanity, underscore any evidence of insanity, the burden shifts to the government to prove him sane beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense does not have the burden in the insanity defense in Colorado. That's the way the Hinckley case was tried. In the Hinckley case, the government, my office, had to prove sanity beyond a reasonable doubt. You can do that for no one. You can do that for no one. That's why the federal law was changed. The Colorado law has not been changed.
Well, are there a lot of cases where people plead guilty by reason of insanity in Colorado compared to other states? I don't know if you know those stats off.
When there is no, it's the same. I mean, the insanity defense is not used, and it is mostly not successful. But in cases where you have murders like this, what usually happens is there's a plea to take the death penalty off the table, usually a life sentence, so that you never even get to that stage. And I'm sure the defense in this case is going to try to get a life sentence without possibility of parole to take the death penalty off the table, but we don't know any of that yet.
What would constitute proving that someone was, well, in this case, sane? But I mean, what is the legal definition of somebody who is acting in an insane way?
Well, in Colorado, they use a combination of the old, what's called the McNaughton rule, the ability to know right from wrong, but they mess it up by including something called the irresistible impulse, which is some moment which overwhelms the mind and makes you commit a crime for which you are absolved. So Colorado's law is basically a mess. But the dangerous part of it is that it shifts the burden to the government to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, sometimes in terrible cases, jurors just ignore the insanity defense. But very few of those cases get to juries. So, we shall see. Remember, this is Colorado, where, we've had a lot of incredibly bizarre behavior over the years. Maybe it's the radiation in the mountains. Who knows?
Well, I mean, there were examples of this guy, I think, knowing the difference between right and wrong. Clearly, what he did was wrong, but he also had the opportunity to have perhaps a shootout with police. Chose not to do it. At one point, he told police that his apartment was booby-trapped, which meant that he apparently knew to tell them that that they wouldn't be killed when they went to the apartment. So he had some sense of right and wrong.
Perhaps. But, that's you and I talking on a radio show, and once you get inside of a courtroom, everything changes. It's not a natural setting. It's not life as we know it. It's an unnatural setting to matters of life and death. But the truth is, in a case like this, once it gets in front of a jury, there's no way of telling what will be said and how it will be said. I don't think he's going to have an easy time proving insanity, but I can tell you this. The fact that he planned and had everything worked out carefully is not evidence that he is sane. In fact, if you remember the John Hinckley case, he had meticulous planning. He had stalked another president, and that the jury bought it. They bought it all with all that careful planning, all the things being written down, everything. The jury in the District of Columbia bought it. Now, in this case in Colorado, it is different. There was a lot of planning, which could be irrelevant in an insanity defense. You just never know. It depends upon the 12 people in the jury box. But clearly he has demonstrated to ordinary people some semblance of sanity, rationality, and calculation. But you never know once you get in the courtroom.
All right, so from a legal standpoint, what can you do? I mean, the guy at the gun range had some concerns about him. He wouldn't let him join the club, and he told everybody, keep an eye on this guy. I suspect that over time we're going to hear something from the university that they had some concerns about him as well, and I think that's perhaps why he withdrew from the university voluntarily. I have a feeling it probably wasn't all that voluntarily. We'll see how that develops. But what do you do when you have a suspicion about somebody, but you don't know that they're going to go out and commit murders? You just feel odd about them. I mean, is there anything of a legal standpoint you can do?
Well, it's a very good question, Brian, because America is full of problems in this area. This case what will eventually come out is that a lot of people thought there was something very strange about this killer. And once those cumulative voices are heard, just like the case down at Virginia Tech, where everybody knew that this guy had a problem and nobody did anything about it, and the people weren't even allowed to know when he was being treated. The laws to protect the privacy of people since the 1970s over mental health are just devastating when it comes to protecting the society at large. All of our laws changed in the 1970s because of something called the Mental Health Law Project in Washington, D.C., which was a bunch of lefty law clerks from the United States Court of Appeals for D.C. who went out and got private money and formed this thing which was designed to get people out of mental institutions and to create privacy laws so you couldn't find out what was wrong with somebody. What you'll find out when this case is over is that people were afraid to say something about him because they thought they would be sued if they did.
All right, let me quickly switch to Penn State. The free report came out last week, and it was pretty damning, for sure, when it comes to the leadership at Penn State within the athletic department, including the football coach, Joe Paterno. Is Penn State open to massive lawsuits, and do you think that these individuals can be sued on an individual basis?
The university, all of the personnel involved in the decision-making process, all of them can be sued, including Joe Paterno's estate. The damages are astronomical. The ability to prove culpability will be relatively simple. The university will have to settle all these cases. There's no way they can withstand a series of trials. The evidence is so overwhelming that they were complicit. In addition, the NCAA, my understanding from what I've been told by some people I spoke to last night, is going to prevent them from appearing in any postseason games. They're going to be fined between $30 and $60 million. They're going to shut down their program for at least a year, perhaps two. And this is being done, by the way, not by an investigative committee, which is the usual way they're doing this. They have gone to their senior board, which runs the NCAA, which consists of university presidents and trustees, and did this without any investigative committee, which is unusual. I've heard a lot of comments from some of the people who used to work at the NCAA saying that this is wrong, they shouldn't do this. This is the NCAA doing for a change something right.
Well,
Penn State deserves to be shut down. We'll
see. I mean, the announcement comes out at 9 o'clock this morning. Whether or not they shut them down for a year or not, that would be big. I've heard that it was unprecedented, but shutting the football program down for a year would be a massive penalty.
Send a message.
Yeah. All right, Joe.
Yeah, and they're going to allow these kids to go to other schools. They're going to allow them legally to transfer.
Sure.
Is my understanding.
Well, that would only be fair if they do shut it down for a year. We'll be watching. Joe diGenova, our legal expert. Great to have you on as always. We appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.